Vanakkam, Dohadevan, everyone. Wonderful to be with you. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadi Tamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And we'll try to share the screen. Here we go, July 30th in Asia. See what we have today. First topic, answering questions sent into satsang@hindu.org. Got a shum question. This week's Mama Shum starts with Bajira, and it seems so loaded with different meanings and perhaps a very apt tool for the mental stresses and depression afflicting so many. Please, could you clarify if Bajira is largely to do with reactions and the subconscious? And is it also real problems with external matters, especially financial strains such as losing a job? Aum Shivaya number 30 indicates how by looking through the... okay, answer. Aum Shivaya 30 indicates how by looking through the third dimension we can bajira or untangle awareness from Rasika and Simravi. A lot of shum words there. So bajira, simple one English word, meaning is untangle. Something is tangled up, you are untangling it. In this case, it's awareness is tangled up. So rasika, what is that? A disturbance between people, a tug and pull of pranic or odic energy between one person and another or one group and another. So it's between people and it's an upset condition. Simravi, disharmony, discordant behavior or upset, the pulling between two or more people when the odic forces move out of control. This refers to a parting of friendship when the flow between two or more people is broken. So rasika, when it intensifies, can turn into simravi. And the answer continues. From these two definitions, you can see we are specifically talking about upsets that involve another person, not just ourselves being upset about something. Aum Shivaya 30 explanation continues. When awareness is in rasika or simravi areas, it is like being in a large room. There are many things to do in there and many things to see. It is like a room with the wind blowing in it. We are trying to clean the room. The more we clean, the more the dust blows around and simply moves to a different place. Doing it this way is extremely time-consuming, so we have to, in a sense, talk ourselves out of being in those areas of the mind. Bajira is the practice of bringing awareness out of the third dimension by working right in the third dimension itself. So we'll come back to that idea. Bringing awareness out of the third dimension by working right in the third dimension itself. And the formal definition of Bajira, a state in which awareness is slowly unwound from rasika. Ni-eve slowly withdraws itself. This can be low-key, talking to another about it, complaining, gossiping, or getting it off your chest. Distraction, like going to a movie, helps Bajira. In Gurudeva's commentary, the key idea is Bajira is the practice of bringing awareness out of the third dimension by working right in the third dimension itself. The third dimension is the realm of ordinary thought and emotions. In other words, we are moving awareness out of the upset condition through working with ordinary thought and emotion. We're not utilizing anything from the deeper dimensions. So, 2 examples, we're talking it over. That's why some people talk to you. They're trying to unwind themselves. Untangle awareness from the upset condition. Or watching TV, going to a movie. Can do it as well. And back to our question, you have mentioned several times, do not think. How do you stop thinking? In the moment when you are aware you are thinking, in the long term. Answer. Last Zoom Satsang, we looked at the practice of mindfulness as an effective way of stopping thinking. Today's approach presents the publisher's desk, letting go of past and future. It gives a few additional effective practices that are based on whether the thoughts are about the past or the future. So that's the key of the idea. Categorizing our thoughts. This publisher's desk is based upon interactions with Hindu families visiting our Hawaii monastery who are trying to practice meditation. Almost always they ask the same question, which is that when they sit for meditation, they are unable to control their thoughts. In response, I wrote this publisher's desk, which gives 5 suggestions for controlling thoughts based upon what time of thought, what kind of thought it is. And the actual text. Many individuals find that when they sit down to meditate, their mind is constantly thinking about past and future events. They find that their mental power is seriously dispersed rather than being intensely focused. Though less obvious, this can also happen when we visit a temple. Gurudeva gave an insightful description of this phenomenon. How many times have you gone to the temple without being fully there? Part of you is there. Part of you is living in the past. Part of you is trying to live in the future. And there you were, emoting over the things that happened that should never have happened. And fearful of things that might happen in the future, which probably won't happen unless you continue being fearful of their happening until you create them. Well, that is a good motivation not to worry. If you worry about something a lot, you can actually create it when it wasn't going to happen in the first place. So that is counterproductive. Focusing the mind, controlling our thoughts is clearly central to successful meditation. In fact, the Patanjali chose the subject for the 2nd verse of his Yoga Sutras, affirms its centrality to the meditative process. As we know, yoga is the restraint of the mind's activities or modifications. And in verse 12, again, as you know, the restraint of these modifications is achieved through practice and detachment. In other words, we can reduce the mind's tendency to be constantly thinking about past and future through certain practices. Beyond helping us be successful in meditation, a focused mind benefits us in other ways. With a focused mind, we will be more successful in our outer activities at work. Another plus is that a focused mind is a peaceful, contented mind. On that peaceful platform, we can turn within and more easily contact our intuition, our superconscious, the inner voice, and utilize the wisdom and creativity it provides. And this is the young children. When we did this recently, you go walking with young children and they see all kinds of things that you didn't see till they pointed out, and then you realize it was there all the time. And that's because their mind is free of past and future. They're just totally in the present, and adults tend to be totally in past and future. Very little in the present. Having established the goal, a focused mind, a mind that is not constantly wandering into the past and future, what are some specific techniques we can apply to harness our thoughts? Let's look first at how we can conquer unnecessary thoughts about the past. Often we think about past events because they are not resolved. They are events that we do not fully understand or accept. Reconciling the past gives freedom and clarity. As Patanjali explained, when the limbs of yoga are practiced, impurities dwindle and radiant knowledge manifests, leading to discrimination as to their difference. In handling thoughts about the past, it is helpful to distinguish between recent unresolved events and those that happened some time ago. And the first question for you: how do we quiet thoughts about the recent past? The subconscious mind will for some weeks throw up or present recent events to the conscious mind many times a day. This is a clear indication that an experience is unresolved. After a few weeks, the subconscious will stop its frequent reminders and suppress the experience. So that's very important to understand. It's a good thing that the subconscious keeps reminding you, say for a week or two, that an event is unresolved. It's giving you a chance to resolve it. But it eventually has to suppress it, because otherwise your mind would just be filled with past unresolved events. So to keep your sanity, the subconscious hides it from you. And then you're just building up hidden subconscious issues. Suppressed experiences accumulate in the subconscious, creating an anxious, troubled nature. It is good, therefore, to act to resolve each experience while this reminding process is going on, rather than to simply wait it out and forget about the happening. It often works to seek a resolution to the matter by discussing it with those involved. If we've hurt the feelings of others, an apology may be appropriate. If our feelings have been hurt, then we may need to forgive others. In such ways, the emotional component of the experience can be diffused and the matter resolved. Unresolved experiences that happened some time ago will also come to mind, but less frequently than recent ones. It is usually no longer appropriate to apologize or seek apology, as the other parties would not understand why we are bringing up the matter after such a long time. And the question for you: how do we quiet thoughts about the past that are not of recent events? That one is easy. Good alternative is to write down anything from your past that concerns you and burn the paper, holding the intent that the memory will be neutralized. If you are successful with your subconscious journaling, you will still remember, but without the attending emotions. So Vasana-Taha-Tantra, we don't forget the event, we neutralize it, we take the negative emotion out of it. Resolving the past may be more of a challenge than one expects. A common problem is an inability to forgive someone, such as an abusive father or husband, for how they treated us. A helpful philosophical approach is to focus on the law of karma by affirming that something we did in the past caused those experiences to come to us in the present. So that is an important point in Gurudeva's teachings, that if something negative happens to you, we want to blame it on the other person. If something good happens to you, we want to take credit. Human nature. But you need to take credit for both, because that's what karma is. Our Father was simply the means through which that karma was experienced. Rather than continuing the unproductive pattern of blaming Him, we can inwardly thank Him for providing us the opportunity to face our difficult karmas. It is amazing how a simple change in our attitude towards such a thing can transform our reaction to it. And another question for you, we're moving to the future. How do we quiet thoughts about the future that are simply worries? What tool do we use that Gurudeva gave us? Many such thoughts fall into the category of worry. We are concerned that certain events may happen, sometimes to the extent of becoming fearful. A remedy that Gurudeva stressed is to enjoy a simple affirmation. When the mind starts to worry, say to yourself, I'm all right now. Keep repeating this affirmation until you are convinced that everything is fine in the present moment. And another question, how do we quiet thoughts about the future that are related to a major decision? May not remember this one. Mulling over major decisions is another type of concern about the future. An example is sorting out the pros and cons of 3 job offers. Common practice is to ponder the decision often, but without thinking it through and reaching a conclusion, instead jumping each time to another topic. Hence it becomes a source of worry. In other words, we're thinking about it, but we don't have enough time to think it fully through because it's complicated. So we're always thinking and jumping. An effective way to dispatch the matter is to make a formal appointment with yourself at a time you are free to focus on it fully, for example, 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. If you find yourself mulling it over before then, discipline your mind by affirming, I have an appointment on Saturday to decide this matter, and therefore there is no need to think about it right now. These and other techniques can be used to focus the mind in the present, rather than dwelling on the past or the future. Once the strong poles of past and future have been subdued, we can concentrate on reducing the miscellaneous thoughts about current concerns, such as plans for the day or the news we saw on TV last night. And the question for you, how do we quiet thoughts about the present? These can be restrained by practicing Pranayama, breath control. A simple, effective technique is to breathe in for 9 counts, hold for 1 count, breathe out for 9 counts, and hold for 1 count. After breathing in this way for a few minutes, your thinking process will naturally calm down. Oh, it's very simple. If you're not worried about past and future a lot, then it's very simple to quiet the miscellaneous thoughts about the present. When we manage to center our mind in the present and quiet the cacophony of miscellaneous thoughts, we experience a higher state of consciousness. Gurudeva refers to this as the eternal now. And he said, the mind lives in the past and the mind tries to live in the future, but when you quiet your mind, you live in the present. You are living within your soul, or the higher state of your mind, which is undisturbed by the things of time. And my comment, one of the abilities available to us once we have freed ourselves of vexations of past and future is to clearly see patterns in our life and in the lives of others. It is the proverbial state of being able to see the forest instead of the trees. In his early teaching years, Gurudeva cultivated this ability by taking his devotees on pilgrimage each month to the top of a nearby mountain from which they could look down on the cities below. This practice was helpful in developing the skill of perceiving the overview. An example of a typical mental pattern that can be seen, then improved upon, is the habit of making a decision to pursue a project, but then giving it up when the first major obstacle is encountered. Once this tendency to quit is perceived, we can work to create a new habit of persevering in our endeavors even when faced with obstacles. Second example is the tendency to make resolves to increase our spiritual practices, sadhanas, but then relinquishing our commitment after spending time with non-religious friends. This problem can be overcome by spending more time with spiritual friends and less time with naysayers. Another benefit that comes from living in the eternal now is the ability to turn within and feel the spiritual power within the spine. There is a dynamic force there that, when experienced, gives us renewed inspiration and positiveness. When we are feeling a bit discouraged, we can find new energy and enthusiasm to meet the tasks at hand by quieting our thoughts and tuning in to the spiritual force felt along the spine. And a final insight from Gurudeva on experiencing the eternal now. Can you visualize yourself right at this instant, balanced on the top of a tall tree? If the tree were to bend too far forward, you would fall to the ground or down into time and thought. If it were to bend too far back, you would fall again. Balanced on the top of the tree, you can look out over the countryside and enjoy everything you see. But if you stop to think about one thing of the past, you would become so engrossed in what you are thinking about that you again fall to the ground. You find that you cannot live in a thinking consciousness balanced so high. Here you live in the eternal now, with great awareness of what is around you and within you, but with no thought on it. So that's the idea of observing. We're using our faculty of observation. We're seeing things because the mind needs content, unless it's focused on awareness, aware of itself. But the content is acquired through observation without thought. Oh, Gurudeva explained it beautifully. Our second topic, continuing the series of looking at character qualities through the approach of positive psychology. For those who weren't here last time, I will start with reviewing what positive psychology is, just a brief review. Positive psychology is a school of modern mental health that focuses on understanding and promoting well-being, happiness, and flourishing in individuals and communities. They like the word flourish. It emerged as a distinct field of study in the late 1990s, led by Martin Seligman and other prominent psychologists. Traditional psychology primarily focused on treating mental illnesses and dysfunction, but positive psychology sought to shift the focus towards understanding what makes life fulfilling and meaningful. In 1998, Professor Seligman gave this description. We have discovered that there is a set of human strengths that are the most likely buffers against mental illness. Courage, optimism, interpersonal skill, work ethic, hope, honesty, and perseverance. Much of the task of prevention will be to create a science of human strength whose mission will be to foster these virtues in young people. So basically that's our idea of strengthening our character qualities. Keeps us mentally healthy and happy. Seligman and his colleagues studied all major religions and philosophical traditions and found that the same 6 virtues were shared in virtually all cultures across 3 millennia. Since these virtues are considered too abstract to be studied scientifically, positive psychology practitioners focused their attention on the strengths of character created by virtues and developed a list of 24 of them. So they have 24 what they call character strengths. We have 64 what we call character qualities. But we studied positive psychology's 24 character strengths, and it gave us some ones that we had left out. For example, humor. Never would have thought of humor as a character strength. And today we're looking at the 5 character strengths and the virtue of wisdom, which are creativity, curiosity, judgment, love of learning, and perspective. Judgment doesn't have an E in the middle in American English. Certainly should. We'll look at each one, similar to how we did for our character qualities. The first character strength is creativity. And a question for you, how would you define creativity? That's pretty easy. Creativity is thinking of new ways to do things. It involves producing ideas or behaviors that are original. However, originality is not enough. Whatever is created, whether an idea or a product, must also be useful or adaptable. For example, you might write a blog post that is unique because it is entirely gibberish. That's not going to be useful, so it would not be considered creative. There are 2 essential components to creativity: originality and adaptiveness. A creative individual generates ideas or behaviors that are novel or unusual, and these make a positive contribution to the individual's life or the lives of others in the group. And this is an interesting one. Take a moment to find an affirmation you could use to increase your creativity. So this is a new approach to character strength. What would you affirm that would encourage you to increase your creativity? Positive psychology's suggestion is, I am creative, conceptualizing something useful, coming up with ideas that result in something worthwhile. And then we get suggested approach. Practicing divergent thinking is one of the most important research-based interventions to boost creativity. So psychology uses the word intervention, which just means a practice, a specific practice. When facing a problem, brainstorm multiple alternatives rather than one solution to the problem. Very good suggestion. First exercise. When facing a problem, define the issue clearly and then practice divergent thinking. Example, developing multiple solutions, outcomes rather than just one solution. Second exercise. Set time aside each day for creative thinking or creative activities, such as writing poems or using an everyday household object in a new way. And the second character strength is curiosity. How would you define curiosity? To be curious is to explore and discover, to take an interest in ongoing experience for its own sake. Curiosity is often described as novelty seeking and being open to experience, and it's associated with a natural desire to build knowledge. It is fulfilling to journey toward an answer, to engage in a new experience, or to learn a new fact, to go to a new restaurant, visit a new city, meet a new person in your class, or to conduct an online search for a question, can each fulfill your quest for new experiences and new information. There are 2 key components to curious individuals. They are interested in exploring new ideas, activities, and experiences, and they also have a strong desire to increase their own personal knowledge. And reflection. Take a moment to find an affirmation you could use to increase your curiosity. Positive psychology suggestion for an affirmation is, I seek out situations where I gain new experiences without getting in my own or other people's way. Practical. Suggested approach. Curiosity can be built by consciously paying attention to and tracking things in one's daily environment that had not been noticed before, things about familiar people that have gone unnoticed. So being more observant. Second approach, no, suggested approach, sorry. The key is to encourage being actively curious, asking lots of questions and making new mini discoveries. In a more formal way, an individual may take an approach of naming 3 novel features of any activity that they are doing. And the first exercise, consider an activity that you dislike. Pay attention to 3 novel features of this activity while you do it. Second exercise, practice active curiosity and explore your current environment, paying attention to anything that you may often ignore or take for granted. And the third and last slide, exercise, pick a favorite topic and do extensive research on it. Discover at least one new thing that you didn't know before. So that's where we're stopping. 2 out of 24. Character strengths.